Hello, thank you for joining us on another episode of Neurospicy Nuggets. Today we're going to talk about some of the tests that we had to complete in order to get an ASD diagnosis for the twins. The first I'm going to talk about is the CDI, the Child Development Inventory. Completed by parents at home, it is about 300 questions and tests the presence of symptoms and behaviors of children between the ages of 15 months and 5 years. Specifically, it measures the child's present development in 8 areas: social, self help, gross motor, fine motor, expressive language, language comprehension, letters, and numbers. The twins took it when they were 19 months old and scored below 12 months in most categories, meaning they were equivalent to what a normal, healthy 12-month-old would score. Their average was about 13 months for the test. The next test was the TABS, the Temperament and Atypical Behavior Scale. This 55-item checklist covers areas such as temperament, attention, attachment, social behavior, play, vocal and oral behavior, sense and movement, self-stimulation and self-injury, and also neurobehavioral state. The tabs consists of two different components. The tab screener, which is a 15-item questionnaire that can be completed in approximately 5 minutes and is used to determine if a child requires a more thorough assessment of developmental aspects related to temperament and self-regulation. The second part is the TABS assessment tool, which contains 55 questions about the child's behavior. Both the screener and the assessment tool should be completed by a parent or a professional who is familiar with the child. The results evaluate atypical behavior in 4 categories. They are detached, hypersensitive, active, underreactive, and dysregulated. The scores for our twins were fairly normal on this one, but not all of the tests will yield reliable results depending on their age. Sometimes questions will ask about how they deal with the stress of homework. Well, my kids are 1.5 years old, so that doesn't apply. This may be true across a wide variety of tests, and some will yield more useful information than others, and we'll touch on that more as we go through. Next, we have the MCHAT, which is the modified checklist for autism in toddlers. It consists of 20 yes or no questions that parents or caregivers can answer about their child's behavior. It is designed to identify children between 16 and 30 months of age who may be at risk for ASD. The scale is a 0 to 20. The lower the score, the better. A failing MCHAT score is 7 points or higher, which indicates a high risk for ASD. Our kids averaged an 8. That put them into the high risk category, and immediate referral for services is recommended with that score. Next, we have the SRS-2, the Social Responsiveness Scale. It identifies the presence and severity of social impairment within the autism spectrum and differentiates it from things that might occur in other disorders. The SRS-2 is a 65-item questionnaire used to assess autistic traits, and it comes in 4 forms: school age, preschool, adult, and adult self-reporting. We use the preschool version, obviously, although this one is typically for people 2 years old and older, but any information it provides can be helpful if you adjust for the age. The SRS-2 uses a Likert-style questionnaire, which is a scale of 1 to 4, where 1 is not true, 4 is almost always true. Higher scores indicate higher impairment. Our kids tested fairly normal, but socially they are pretty mild-mannered, and we are grateful for that. Then we have the GARS-3, the Gilliam Autism Rating Scale, 3rd edition. It consists of 56 items that describe the behavior of individuals being assessed for ASD. The test is grouped into 6 subscales: restrictive repetitive behaviors, social interaction, social communication, emotional response, cognitive style, and maladaptive speech. The GARS-3 is designed for individuals aged 3 to 22 years old. And here's an example of what I meant before when I say not every part of a test will necessarily be applicable to your kids or your situation. For example, our kids weren't speaking at 19 months when they took these assessments, so evaluating something like maladaptive speech wasn't really possible. but that doesn't mean it can't still provide useful information. Each item is rated on a scale of 0 to 3, with 0 being not like the individual and 3 being very much like the individual. Our kids scored into the 60s, which put them into the probable range for ASD on that test. Lastly, we did the CARS 3, the Childhood Autism Rating Scale, second edition, or I guess we did the third edition. The CARS consists of 14 domains assessing behavior associated with autism, with a 15th domain rating general impressions of autism. Each domain is scored on a scale ranging from 1 to 4. Higher scores are associated with a higher level of impairment. Total scores can range from a low of 15 to scores as high as 60. Scores below 30 indicate that the individual is in the non-autistic range, and scores between 30 and 36.5 indicate mild to moderate autism, and scores from 37 to 60 indicate severe autism. Our kids fell into the range for mildly and moderately abnormal, but I do want to make one note about this. Children that are scored above 32, the test has generally been found to be very accurate. There is a slight differentiation between kids that score 30, 31, or 32 on the test. Kids that fall into that range have a small chance of being misdiagnosed as having autism, when in fact they do not. Anything above a 32 is usually pretty solid evidence. Anything below a 30 is usually pretty solid evidence that they do not have ASD. But if your kid falls in between that 30 and 32, I would definitely rely on other assessments in conjunction with this one, not just this test alone. This was just a brief overview of some of the assessments that were used to diagnose our kids, but this is not a complete list of the tests out there. There are lots of assessments your doctor may want you to take. Some of these, all of these, more than these, different ones than these, depending on your situation. Some of these other tests include the ASQ-SE, the DECA, and the BIT-C. If you have any questions about our experiences with any of these, please put them in the comments below. We all have fun stories to share on that we've experienced on our journey. I have some fun stories to share about being in the NICU when the doctors want you to leave before the kids are ready. I have some stories about Katie Beckett waivers and that whole process, and some stories about what to avoid when looking at therapy services, because we used one that turned out to just be a nightmare. Let me know in the comments if you want to see videos about those topics, or if you have any questions you'd like me to cover in a future episode. I hope you and your families are well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.